the last question for tonight. It's a little bit, well, maybe it's a little bit philosophical, but it's in practical terms, it's not. It's called what is to be done. Basically, the Lenin position, the answer is clear in a way. We know what is to be done. And for Marx, it's also obvious what is to be done. Whereas I think for Hegel, you could make the argument that you can never know what is to be done, in the sense that you can never know, and this is somehow related, of course, to the question of the invisible hand of the theodicy, that you can never know, that you cannot jump over your own time, and therefore you cannot know what goal you should be oriented towards.
This is a wonderful question. You know why? Because this, for me, is the ultimate reason that I consider myself a Hegelian. For me, what we need today, I use sometimes this phrase, is the materialist reversal of Hegel into of Marx into Hegel, back to Hegel. Because, you know, Hegel is usually that idiot, absolute knowing, who thought he knew everything. No, Hegel says openly, the future, we cannot talk about it. He accepted that all our projections for future are, there is no meta-language, Hegel knew, in the, we cannot step on our back and look into the future. Our idea of future is always somehow contained into our present situation. That's why the effect is always another one. And here, Marx is too idealist for me, because Marx thought that this holds for the entire history, but with the proletarian revolution, I simplify it very much, we have the first historical subject who is doing something and knows what it, her, they is doing. He thought that proletarian revolution is the moment of transparency. And that's why I think Hegel is needed more than ever today. Because although, another thing, although this doesn't mean that Hegel, that's very interesting, Hegel is usually dismissed as a crazy speculative idealist, but you must notice that in his empirical judgments on concrete things, Hegel is says something so incredibly penetrative, looking into the future. Check his philosophy of history, introduction. When he speaks there, this was given as a lecture in 1820 around, when he speaks about Russia and, at another point, United States, you know what Hegel said? It's too early to say. Next century, 20th, will be their epoch of United States and Russia. He saw this, and even with the best of Marxists, you find this. For example, he was, although less than Marx, but you know what Engels, the stupid Engels, nobody like him, wrote around, I think, 1882. It's breathtaking. He not only predicted, one of the few, there were just 2, 3 sociologists, journalists, World War I, but then in one fragment Engels said, and if Germany will fight a war against Russia and France, Britain at the same time, and since Germany will probably lose, he even said this war will count, he was probably lucky here, that there will be around 10 million dead. Today's official number is 9,800,000. Then he said this may lead to a revolution in Russia. Lenin, Engels. And then he said, it's breathtaking, if Germany will lose, some 2 decades later, there will be another revenge war from Germany. So being a speculative idealist, that's what I want to say, doesn't mean you are caught in stupid situations. And a true genius of Hegel, only today we can read it. You know what is Hegel's last text? It's a critique of British, this new election which spreads wider towards larger participation of of voting, was first step towards a reform bill or what. Hegel's critique is not, as people simply think, reactionary. It is basically. But he says what may happen is that the lot of people who will now be included will be manipulated. And then Hegel introduces there, or in another text, another wonderful notion, not just Pebble, as Pebble proletarians, but Pebble bourgeoisie, this vulgar new rich, and, and they may manipulate the new poor so that the manipulation will be even worse than now. So in this sense, I think that for Hegel to analyze society after his death, we are in his water. Hegel, this is Hegel's topic. Hegel is always interested in how things which are well meant turn into their opposite. For example, Hegel would have been enthusiastic about this. How come that the second half of 19th century, which was perceived as the era of, at least in Europe, not elsewhere, gradual progress and so on, out of nowhere, World War I exploded. Hegel would have loved to analyze this, or why fascism, why Stalinism, and so on and so on. Hegel's point is precisely this: how can the best ideas go wrong? So, this is for me again. But now I come to final point.
Thank you.
No. With you that this doesn't mean, you can feel this in Hegel, that we should do nothing. It will always go wrong. No, Hegel at the same time knew that if you do nothing, it will be even worse. You have to take a risk, it will turn wrong, and then maybe the second time something better will emerge. For example, people read Hegel in a totally wrong way when they think in his critique that he is rejecting Jacobin terror. Yes, he is critical, but critical in the sense that it was necessary. It was not a choice in the sense that, shall we go into Jacobin way or shall we just make a gradual... No, you had to go through it. In this sense, I think Hegel's time is just arriving.
All right.